war between Harvard and Donald Trump, it seems like there are threats and there are actions that are being taken against Harvard by the Trump administration. The latest being that if Harvard continues with its ways, then international students will be denied entry into the United States of America. What does it mean for international students that could also include Indians? What does it mean for those who go on scholarships? And who will blink first? What are the worries of parents and of students? To discuss all this and more, I'm being joined by Dr. Karan Gupta, an educationist, alumnus of Harvard University himself, and a counselor when it comes to counseling students who wish to study in the United States of America. Dr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us here on the network. Let's just begin let's just begin with do's and don'ts. There are a lot of students who must be reaching out to know what is it that we should do, what is it that we shouldn't, to ensure that their visas are not rejected, that there are no rejections that they face.
Thank you, Geeta. So the first thing I would say, and very important to remember, I'm an education counselor. I've advised students to study abroad, career counseling for over 2 decades. But I can confidently say this, that this is not a time for fear. It's a time for focus. Students must remember that they're going to Harvard or any university abroad to earn a world-class education, not to participate in politics. So follow the laws of the country, respect the systems, stay clear of activism, keep your documentation perfect and communication clear with a grounded mindset. Because the goal of the student is to study, grow, and thrive. That's where the energy should be. So for me, this is number one. And whether they're thinking about the visa, whether they're thinking about the admission is going to stand, is Harvard going to continue to take foreign students, all those are secondary things. This is the first thing that students should take care of.
Okay. In terms of their social media accounts, should they ensure that anything that they've said, written, that all that should be wiped clean, because immigration officers are going to look into that? It's happening in the US for students who are already there.
So once again, we come back to the core issue. Students go to the United States, they go to universities like Harvard to study. If a student is politically motivated, if they are interested in supporting different countries, if their goal is politics and that reflects on their social media, they, with the current administration, are not going to be welcome in the US. So my advice is, don't lie, be honest. If you keep your social media accounts clean, you really have nothing to worry about.
Okay, interesting. How many worried students have really come to you in terms of seeking counseling, advice? Are they really worried that should they go to the United States of America, will they be able to continue with their studies? Will there be disruption? Will they be sent back? What should they really worry about? Are these questions that they're coming to you with?
Yes. So I would say in the last couple of months, we've got more and more inquiries from parents about, is the United States safe for us? Our students are getting deported for minor violations. This is something that we should worry. And once again, when students are going to top universities, their focus is to study. I tell them, follow the law of the land, stay clear of any kind of activism, stay clear of protests, keep your social media accounts clean. So when they focus on that, they don't get into trouble. And that's exactly what I tell the parents, that you have nothing to worry about if your child is going to study.
Are there any specific questions that the parents come with which are not specific to how students are looking at, or the prism through which the students are looking at the problem?
So right now, the main and the first question is people who've got admission to universities for this fall. The first question is there going to be a problem in the visa? And my answer is that, once again, if you have your funding, if you're going to a good school, you're a genuine student, you're not going to have a problem. Harvard's case is a little different because Harvard is in the eye of the storm right now. And the issue here is that Harvard is not backing down, and neither is the current administration. So there may be a situation where a visa is hard to get for Harvard at this point. Maybe in the next few months that clears up. So one of the questions that parents are asking, yes, is about the visa. Another question they ask is about safety. And the third question they normally ask is that, is the US going to be welcoming for international students? And
Okay.
I tell them to look back at the first term of this administration. And the first term, again, they made sure that students who are genuinely studying at good universities, their purpose is to be in the US to make a career, to possibly learn diversity, be in a multicultural environment. Those students are well taken care of. So we expect that that same thing is going to translate in this administration, and students should be safe on campus.
All right. We will specifically speak about Harvard, but before that, how many international students, particularly Indians, really go to the Ivy League universities in the US on a yearly basis?
The numbers are really small. I mean, if you look at how many Indian students go to the US each year, that number is greater than 1 lakh a year. When we talk about Ivy Leagues, we're talking about very small double digits. So at the undergraduate level, Harvard, for example, may take not more than 15 students from the entire country. At the master's level, they may take a greater number. So for the MBA program, you might have 20 students or 25. For the other masters, you may have another 30 or 40. So the numbers are really small when it comes to Ivy Leagues. Remember, there are just 8 Ivy Leagues in the US.
And so the numbers are small, but the worries are great. We will talk about Harvard yet again. But let's just talk about funding and the impact of on scholarships. Now, if the Trump administration freezes funding for the universities and also starts taxing them, how is that going to impact scholarships, especially for international students?
That's a really good question. And yes, this is something that is coming up now, that what's going to happen to funding. So some universities which are private, they have large endowments. We expect that the situation should not last long. Let's say they get taxed as political entities. For a couple of years, we're not going to see a problem because we expect that the universities would dip into their endowments and they would take care of whatever scholarships are needed to be given. They would take care of all of that. If the problem continues, they probably would have to raise their tuition fees if they're not getting any federal funding. We're also telling students right now to have a plan B when it comes to finances. If you've got a research grant at the master's level or an academic scholarship at the undergraduate level, there is a chance that the university may put their hands up and say, hey, we can't honor this scholarship anymore. So students should have a plan B in the form of loans from India, loans in the United States, external agencies that give scholarships. But yes, plan B is the way to go right now.
Okay. But in terms of should your students lose their scholarship, what are the other sources of funding that you'd be looking at and you'd suggest to students?
So the most obvious and the quickest way to get funding is through loans. The state banks in India give loans of up to 3 crores, which is more than enough to cover their education. There are scholarship programs in the US which don't need co-signers, loan programs, sorry. They don't need co-signers and students can opt for those loans. There are different scholarship agencies that they can apply to, which give small amounts, but if you get multiple such scholarship, it all adds up. So these are typically the additional sources that students can look at in addition, of course, to their own private funding.
Right. Now, as an alumnus of Harvard, let's just talk about Harvard University. A unique case. Professors from Harvard have been saying that we've taken the leap, we have started this so-called revolution, and that other Ivy League universities should join in. Otherwise, this will not last, that they'll not be able to take on the Trump administration. But in doing so, Trump administration has made it very clear that they're not going to allow or they'll disallow international students from going to the US or joining Harvard. How does that impact Indian students, even if they are very small in number? There are some. We know of a few who are who've gotten through Harvard. So, is this fall going to be difficult for them to really go join their classes?
So we are at an uncertain time right now. Let's put it that way. And let's also be clear that as of now, Harvard has not rescinded any offers. If you hold an acceptance, you're still part of the world's most prestigious academic community. Visa procedures may see added scrutiny. So I'm advising students continue engaging with the university, stay informed through official sources, have a backup plan, not from fear, but from strategic foresight, because you've earned your place at Harvard. So before you arrive, be prepared, be empowered. Don't panic. It's not a time to panic because, again, Harvard is in the eye of the storm right now, but nothing has happened yet. We still don't think that they're going to eventually deny visas for Harvard. Well, if they do, then we need plan B. We don't think that Harvard's going to rescind offers. We don't think that they're going to cut funding. As
But
of
if
now,
they, but if
everything's on
they,
the table.
yeah, but if they do not, because if they're saying they're going to disallow, which means that the immigration is going to ensure that those carrying an admission letter from Harvard do not get their visas at the embassy. And if that happens, they will miss out on a semester, if not anything else. Is that a possibility?
Yes, that is a possibility. See, we are in April right now, and students would apply for their visas in the summer, June, July, and possibly even early August. There's a good chance that the situation is resolved by then. If it's not, Harvard may advise students to study online for a semester and then come on campus in January. But I don't think a situation would arise that Harvard would tell people, go get your visas while they're currently fighting with the current administration, knowing very well that the visas are going to be denied. I don't think that would happen.
So they are going to maybe have an arrangement for students who can't make it in time for this the coming
Yeah.
semester.
So, the thing is, again, it's a good point to remember that end of the day, Harvard is a university with a lot of political clout and a lot of finances. Their endowment is close to $50 billion. Harvard can take this fight and they can stretch it a little longer if they so desire. It's sad that education and politics are getting mixed here because as a counselor, my main focus is education. We have to take care of the student, and that's what we're talking about, that how are students getting affected by this?
But Dr. Gupta, can I just ask you this before I go to the larger picture of the endowment? That's a very important point that you make. But in a student's life, aren't protests part of university life? How can students be told what they should be doing, how they should be learning, and what they should be learning?
See, once again, I believe personally in freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I believe that everything you do is part of your learning experience. But end of the day, you're a guest in a foreign country. Being a guest in a foreign country, you have to respect the laws.
But
Your goal was to,
isn't this decision of Trump administration retrospective? Because Biden administration didn't think they were breaking laws. Protests were never about breaking laws. Anybody can protest about actions that are being taken by a particular government, especially in the United States of America.
possibly, but once again, that's his political decision on what he's doing, and it's a political decision of the administration. We have to think, how is it impacting our students? So going forward, and even back in the past, our advice to students and parents is that let the child focus on education. That's what they're going for. Why would they go on social media and post things about a country that doesn't concern them, or a situation that, even if it concerns them, discuss it with your friends? Why make a public spectacle? Today, if we talk about the protests that are happening or happened, they caused a lot of inconvenience to people. They blocked roads, they blocked places. While there is certain amount of freedom of speech and expression, a foreigner residing in a foreign country, your freedom of speech is restricted. And that was the case earlier. It's just that the administration didn't act earlier, and now the administration is choosing to act on it.
Okay. Zooming out a little and focusing on endowment. Now, it is a vicious circle. It is one where Trump, maybe a little down the road, will have to rethink his strategy and policy, because all the endowments that these Ivy League universities have, and they're huge, there's a lot of investment in the same companies, same industries, which is why there was this entire campaign against the pro-Palestine protests were about also divesting, that do not invest in weapons companies. But these are the same weapons lobby that support Donald Trump. And they could very well be pressured by the same universities who invest in them, threatening a pullout should they not impress upon Donald Trump to take appropriate action and not harass universities. So isn't this a circle, a vicious circle? Somewhere down the road, Donald Trump will be realizing it sooner.
So once again, I mean, if we look at an endowment and we also look at a funding that a university gets, if a university is accepting federal funding, they have to play within the rules of the game. They can't play outside of that because you're taking the federal funding. If you say, okay, I don't take federal funding and I rely completely on tuition and endowments and donations, fair enough. You have a lot more liberty to do things that you want to do. I think at the end of the day, a university should be free to use the endowment as they please. They should be able to support whatever causes they want. But if a university is breaking laws that are formed, there are going to be consequences, which is what Harvard is seeing right now.
Okay, so you are saying that should they not take federal funding, somewhere down the line their endowment is big enough that they can actually look at the lobbies and the companies and the weapons industries to maybe pressure Trump to not go down this path and this war path against universities? Can that really happen or not? Federal
See,
funding
Harvard
is
once
important.
again, yeah, Harvard once again is a very strong university with strong political clout. And when I say political clout, I say a lot of people who are sitting in Washington, D.C. today are alums from Harvard. They also love their university and they want to help in whatever way they can. So I'm very certain that they're going to come to some sort of midway where Harvard compromises on some things that the administration want and the administration compromises on something that Harvard wants. That middle ground will be achieved because we're talking about a lot of money here, the federal funding and the endowment. And we're talking about the billions of dollars that international students are going to bring in. No one wants to lose this kind of money.
All right, Dr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us and explaining to us exactly what's happening, how worried students are, how worried the parents are, and somewhere down the road, what this means for Harvard University, for the Ivy Leagues, but also for the administration that will be looking at all the money that they stand to lose should they continue with this war between university and the administration. Thank you so much for joining us.